So welcome everyone. I'm very pleased to attend this new Birthing the New Humanity session. We are welcoming now Nutan Pandit, who's joining us today at the Birthing the New Humanity conference. I'm going to introduce you to her now. So Nutan Pandit holds a degree in sociology, a diploma in journalism, and has trained at National Childbirth Trust London and Breastfeeding Promotion Network India. She's an author of 3 books and a natural birth therapist. Her birth preparation classes provide a complete guide with yoga, nutrition, birth preparation, breastfeeding, post-birth guidance for expecting women and their partners. Everything she does has originated from her own personal experience of birthing her children effortlessly and joyfully. Her work of being with women in labor has led her to create the Nutan Pandit Lamaze program for childbirth. Her expertise has been shared in many articles, speaking engagements, interviews, and she is responsible for creating many training programs that have inspired many professionals to become agents of change in their communities. Today, Nutan is going to talk about Bach Flower Remedies in pregnancy, birth, and beyond. We'll look forward to hear your presentation. Thank you for being with us, Nutan.
Welcome.
So Nutan, you can tell me when you would like me to start the recording, the video.
Yes, Francois, whenever you feel
Okay,
right.
I will do it now. I would like to say for our audience that our wonderful friend Nutan is recovering from a very bad flu, which is very much in fashion these days. And this is why you will only see the recording. But Nutan is with us. She made the effort of being with us. And thank you so much for being here, Nutan. So I'm now going to play your recording.
Hello everyone, I'm Nutan Pandit, and today we are going to speak about Bach Flower Remedies. And before we do that, let us understand who was Dr. Edward Bach. Dr. Edward Bach, the founder of the Bach Flower Remedies, the pioneer of them, was a physician. He studied at University College Hospital in London, and he was a house surgeon there. Thereafter, he started a practice at Harley Street of pathology and vaccination. But as a child, Dr. Edward Bach lived in the countryside, and as a teenager, he went to work at a brass foundry in Birmingham. And that was a very industrial environment. And what he ended up doing was he ended up observing people and the illnesses that they caught when he was working at the brass foundry. He further in life continued to do the same thing, whether it was a seaside resort, whether it was at a pub, whether it was at a dinner party. He was always observing people and the illnesses that they got. He worked really hard. He worked very hard during the World War also, but he suddenly fell gravely ill and was not expected to live beyond 3 months. However, he cured himself with homeopathy and carried on to live 20 more fruitful years thereafter. And when he switched to homeopathy, he innovated in homeopathy medicines made from pathological products like viruses, diseases, cultures. And they are called no-sodes in homeopathy and are still practiced. They are called the 7 Bach no-sodes. But however, Dr. Edward Bach was extremely intuitive, and he felt that there has to be some other method of healing in nature, which is very close to nature and has nothing to do with disease or products of disease. So he went to live with nature, and he observed on his morning walks that looking at certain flowers would change his mood. and licking the dew off them would change his mood further. So he realized that there was this tremendous vibration in the flowers that would help heal. And he went on uh, to actually identify 12 personality types and the healing that they would do. So I'm going to read to you a quotation from Nora Weeks. She has written a book called The Medical Discoveries of Dr. Edward Bach, physician. And I quote, "From his own experience and from watching others closely, Bach realized that man was endowed with all the wisdom and knowledge necessary to guide him through his earthly life in utmost happiness, joy, and health, and that this wisdom was imparted to him through his intuition and instincts. These were means of communication between man's higher self and his earthly personality, and being of divine origin were to be obeyed and trusted implicitly. Unhesitating obedience to these was the secret of health and happiness. When the individual allowed the interference of suggestions of others to deter him from following his own inner convictions, then the conflicting states of mind, fear, indecision, hate, and the like assailed him, marring his happiness and affecting his health. And when a person came up with certain symptoms in his personality that were troubling him, they were a sign as to where the weakness lay in that person. And if the person addressed it through Bach Flower Remedies or any other way, maybe changing his lifestyle or his ways, that would heal that person, because that was the true nature. And we are going to now look at certain personality types that Dr. Edward Bach identified. So the first personality type that Dr. Edward Bach identified was agrimony. These are people who suffer torment, but they put on a cheerful front, and they may often be addicted to cigarettes or alcohol. And I'd like to point out here that as the slides go ahead, on the right side at the bottom, there is a picture of the flower being spoken about. It's not very clear, but you can get an idea. Next. Centauri is another personality type. These are people who love to please others. They can't say no for anything. They neglect their own needs and are often what in today's language we would call domats. Serato is for people who are uncertain. They require validation about anything they think and feel. They have no confidence in what they think and feel. Clematis is for dreamy people, people with impractical ideas. It's also for people who faint, because that's also going away from the present. And chicory is for possessive, demanding, and needy people. Gentian is for depressed, discouraged after setback personalities. And impatience is for irritable, agitated, and tense people. They're very impatient. They want things done their way, and they feel no one can do it like them. With the result, they take on a lot of responsibility on themselves. It also is very useful for high blood pressure and also relieves pain. Mimulus is for people who are very nervous and shy. They have performance anxiety and they worry about how things will pan out in daily life. Rock rose is for people who are very scared, terrified. They panic, they fear death mostly. Scleranthus is for people who are wavering between choices. They can never decide what they want. Vervain is for people who are very enthusiastic about what they feel and they strive to convince everybody else that's the best way to be. And they may end up being exhausted as a result of that. Water violet is for lonely, isolated, and aloof people. They are quiet. Their presence is appreciated by everybody, but they do not interact with anybody very much. And now we come to this very interesting rescue remedy. Rescue remedy was innovated by Dr. Edward Bach when, in a panic, he was called to deal with a sailor who had been shipwrecked onto the shore, and he was not expected to survive. He was almost half dead. And Dr. Bach very quickly put together 5 medicines for him. One was rock rose, which is for panic or terror, clematis, which is for fainting, star of Bethlehem, which is for shock that can be emotional or physical, cherry plum is for hysterical people and people who might do self harm also, impatience is for agitation and tension. And he gave the sailor these drops, and lo and behold, the sailor stood, woke up, sat up actually, and asked for a cigarette. So he felt good enough to ask for a cigarette. That's really amazing. And rescue remedy, we will discuss later, is a wonderful remedy you can have with you whenever you travel. It can be had after a shock, after an accident, after the breakup of a relationship, or even if you have a fall. It's an amazing, amazing remedy. Very often we add this to other remedies that one takes. Like if, for instance, someone is addicted to alcohol and you give them agrimony to get over their addiction, certain other emotions may come up when they have agrimony, and those will be taken care of by rescue remedy. So rescue remedy can be had by itself. It is generally recommended along with any other recommended remedy. And next. So I quote here from Dr. Edward Bach: for those who are sick, peace of mind and harmony with the soul is the greatest aid to recovery. And how do the flower remedies work? What is amazing is that the flower remedies work just like a beautiful piece of music would affect you, just like a beautiful scene of nature would affect you. So they work on a vibrational level. There is no medicine in it. So if you take a medicine, say mustard, of the mustard flower, and you check it in the laboratory, there'll be no trace of mustard in it. It's the vibration of the flower that goes into the water, and it's a vibration from the water that goes into the body and makes the person peaceful and happy. And the body is then able to heal itself when the host, when the person of the body is happy and peaceful. It gently balances between the mind and the body, and it is generally when you take the right remedy, you should come out better than before you took it, because you have addressed exactly the issue that needed being addressed. You can address it with Bach Flower Remedies. You can address it also with other work like inner child work, like breath work, like hypnosis, any other complementary system. And what it does is it actually brings us in touch with our own inner energy, which is called prana shakti in India. It's called chi in acupressure, and it brings you in total balance. One thing interesting about Dr. Edward Bach was he was very keen to free the Bach Flower Remedies from theories, from science, and so he burnt all his case notes and all his study notes. And he said everything in nature is simple, and you don't need to look at science and theories all the time. On his grave, on his tombstone, it says, "Behold and alive forevermore," which is beautiful because he is alive and beholden right up to now through his work. And I'd really like to thank the almighty nature, flowers, Dr. Edward Bach, Antonella, my teacher of Bach Flower Remedies, and my clients. Thank you. So, my journey with Bach Flower Remedies began in 2005 when I learned of the flower remedies. And soon thereafter, I had this girl in my prenatal class who was looking very distraught, and I asked her what the matter was. And she said that her father was down with cancer and the family wasn't allowing her to meet him. So we had a little bit of a conversation and she went away. And the next week, when she came back, she was looking even more distraught. So, what had happened in the intermittent period is that she did go and see her father, but he did not recognize her because of the brain tumor that he had. And that really made her very upset. So then I asked her, do you mind? I have Bach Flower Remedies. Would you like trying them? And she was open to trying them. So that is how my journey with Bach Flower Remedies for pregnant women began. And so she had the Bach Flower Remedy and she managed to calm herself down. Thereafter, she even lost her father while she was pregnant. She went through all the ceremonies and continued full term to have a healthy baby full term. Another interesting thing I find Bach Flower Remedies help with is the amniotic water. So there was this girl who was expecting twins and she started to leak water, the amniotic water, in February. She was due middle of April. So I gave her rescue remedy and rock water in coconut water. And she had it 4 times a day. And that kept her amniotic level waters to a good level, even though she still kept leaking. And in the first week of March, unfortunately, she developed infection and was delivered by cesarean on the 7th of March. But the baby's got 1 extra month in the mother's womb, which is really nice. Another instance of the Bach Flower Remedies helping with the water levels is a mother who was 32 weeks in her pregnancy and her amniotic water was 6 and her baby was 1.3 kg. So by 32 weeks, the baby should be about 2 kg. So even the growth was kind of lagging. So I gave her again rescue remedy and rock water. And in her 35th week, her water level came up to 12.8 from 6. So the doctor was really happy. Of course, we asked the doctor whether she was okay to try the Bach Flower Remedies, and she had said yes. And in the 37th week, unfortunately, she developed an infection and she had to be delivered by induction. She delivered vaginally, and at birth, her baby was 2 point, the baby was, let me give you the exact weight, 2.5 kg the baby was at birth, which is really good, considering the baby was lagging in its growth. And I find the Bach Flower Remedies also help women who are pregnant and women who are in grief. So I had this mom who was married into a joint family and finding it difficult to cope. And she was a centauri in the sense she couldn't say no. So everybody would ask her to do 100 things for her and she would go ahead and do it. And she felt like a victim. So I gave her a customized Bach Flower remedy. So I gave her something for feeling like a victim, which is willow. And I gave her centauri for not being able to say no. I gave her sweet chestnut for sadness. And I added just a few more. And she took it for like 2 months and she was fine. All the problems that were coming up with the weight of the baby, with the amniotic water level not being adequate, everything settled down. And she went on, she said she felt very happy now, much happier than before. Another instance of a woman who took Bach Flower Remedies in pregnancy was a woman who was having her second baby. Her first child was 8 years old. And during one of the antenatal checkups, the doctor had said to her, her blood pressure was high at one of the visits, and the doctor said, "Oh, this is a sign of preeclampsia." And she just got it into her head that she was heading for preeclampsia. And her blood pressure never normalized for some weeks thereafter. So her blood pressure was high. She was worried about her son and her husband. So for her blood pressure, I gave her impatience. For her worry about her son and her husband, I gave her red chestnut. Red chestnut is for people who worry a lot about people that they love. And some more were added. I think I added gentian for pessimism, for being pessimistic and not imagining a positive outcome. Not gentian, sorry, gorse. I added gorse for not expecting a positive outcome. And she got her blood pressure under control, and she sailed through her pregnancy and was so happy. And I was so happy that the flower remedies could help her. And then there was this girl who had a very long labor, in the sense I heard said that the morning of the day that I heard she's gone into labor. And by the next morning, I had no news, so I thought maybe they forgot to tell me. But when I connected with them, I realized that she hadn't yet delivered the baby. So I went to meet her, and she was lying down in hospital looking totally hopeless. And the minute she saw me, she said, "There's no point, Nutan, I'm going to have a cesarean." And she was just lying down hopelessly. And I said, "Do you mind if I give you some flower remedies?" And she said, "No, I don't want to have flower remedies." So I said, "Well, do you mind if I rub them on your feet?" And she said, "Okay." So I rubbed on her feet rock water for spontaneity, impatience for pain, and rescue remedy, as we always add. So after rubbing it on her feet for a while, she just got off the bed, sat down, looked at me, looked around, looked at her husband, stood up, and suddenly she started doing everything that we had learned in class in terms of breathing, positions. Her husband was helping her, and I just looked at him and I said, "Shall I take over for a bit?" And I started to help her. And when I did, he said, "Shall I go eat breakfast and come?" I said, yes, sure. So when he came back, I left, but I put the remedies in her water. And she kept sipping the water, and later in the day, she had a normal vaginal delivery. So our flower remedies also help with long labor. They also help in breastfeeding problems. So rock water is something that would always help, whether it's labor, whether it's breastfeeding. Rescue remedy would also help. And for labor and for breastfeeding, another thing that could help is ELM. ELM, ELM is for feeling unequal to the task at hand, and mimulus, which is for performance anxiety. These two also come in handy. So according to what the mother's feeling, you can give her what she wants. Another thing that is very useful is the rescue remedy. The rescue remedy, apart from the things that I said to you, can also be used in vaccinations or when the baby is ill. You can sponge the baby with water in which rescue remedy has been added if the baby is ill. And if the vaccination is hurting the baby, say there's a little sore spot here, you can dip some water in to which rescue remedy has been added and place it on the angry part. Or you can just sponge the baby with rescue remedy. Rescue remedy is also good for any nerve related pain. So I recall that there was this girl in class who looked different suddenly one day when she came to the class, and I said, "Hey, you're looking different today." She said, "I have this throbbing pain on my head, and the doctor says I'm heading for Bell's palsy or facial paralysis, and there's nothing we can do. It's just going to hit me suddenly. I don't know when." And I said, "Well, would you like to try rubbing rescue remedy on your forehead where it's hurting?" She said, "No, I wouldn't mind." So I gave her rescue remedy and she rubbed it on her forehead, and she felt better by the end of the class. So I gave her the bottle before she went home, and she rubbed it on her forehead through the week. And by the end of the week, her headache had gone and she never got the Bell's palsy. So for nerve-related pain, rescue is great. And for any kind of pain, if you add rescue and impatience and rub it on the area that hurts, that also helps pain a lot. And of course, postnatally also, the flower remedies can help, for which I will share with you the story of a mom who was very sensitive, very traumatized. Although she had a normal delivery, she was still traumatized. So I told her to have Star of Bethlehem and Rescue Remedy. Generally, you have Star of Bethlehem and Rescue Remedy after a cesarean. You can give it to the mother and the baby at any age, because your cells hold the memory of what you've been through. So even if there is a child who's 7 years old, and the mother of that child and the child can have Rescue Remedy and Star of Bethlehem. So I gave her Rescue Remedy and Star of Bethlehem, but it did not help her. And I shared with my teacher her case. So I will share with you her case also. And I will share you the recipe that my teacher recommended, and that worked. So her complaint was that the baby wouldn't stop crying. He would be at the breast all night. And in the day, he had to be held. The moment he was put down, he would start crying. Now, her history was that the previous year she had lost a baby. She had had a miscarriage very late into her pregnancy, like 30 weeks. They had found an anomaly in the baby in the ultrasound and recommended a termination. So it was very traumatic. She went through labor and she lost the baby. And after that, she couldn't conceive. And when she did conceive, it was with IVF, which is again so many medical procedures. And now, when she came to the class, she was almost ready and sure that she would have a cesarean. But when she heard about the advantages of normal delivery, she thought she would work towards it, and she did. But the whole experience was very traumatic for them. So, what my teacher recommended, because remember, the baby lived within her, and the memory of hers would be shared, of her cells would be shared by the baby also. So my teacher recommended Star of Bethlehem for shock, cherry plum for hysteria, olive for exhaustion. For mental and physical exhaustion, olive is great. Crab apple, I presume she recommended because of the highly medicated processes the mother had been through. Aspen, which is for fears, vague fears. Chicory, which is for possessive behavior. After the mother and baby had these, they calmed down, they felt better, but the father was still agitated. So then I told him to have Rescue Remedy and Star of Bethlehem, and he also calmed down. And touch wood, they're fine now. One thing about flower remedies is that you can always innovate, think, imagine, have the compassion, feel what the mother's feeling or the person who's suffering is feeling, and understand it and give the medicine accordingly. So I remember a very interesting incident shared by one of the, we learned Bach Flower Remedies. Then we had a group where we meet after learning, where we share our experiences. So this girl shared that a relative of hers had Parkinson's, in which the hand moves repeatedly. Now, in the Bach Flower Remedies, there is a medicine for repeated thoughts, which is called white chestnut. So she thought, if white chestnut is for repeated thoughts, why not for repeated movements? So she gave her relative white chestnut and Rescue Remedy, and it helped the movement of Parkinson's. It reduced it. So you can imagine, and you can think, and you can innovate. And so it is so exciting. You can learn every day a new combination. You can take a case, think about it. What I like to do is, sometimes if the case looks very complicated, I talk to them, I think about it, and then I just forget about it. And then suddenly it strikes me, oh, maybe this, maybe that. And then that's what's so beautiful about it. And that it is so non-invasive. That is beautiful about it. And I would really, I'm in immense gratitude to Dr. Edward Bach for this beautiful system of healing that he has left behind. And I'm in gratitude to all the people who are carrying it forward and not letting it die and disappear. And I think such systems of healing are beautiful, gentle. They can be used along with other systems like maybe hypnosis, EFT, pranic healing, Reiki, whatever. I mean, when you're suffering, you might as well do whatever you can to help yourself. And each of them will help and help and help. And then finally, you will reach a complete healing. And that then will be worth it, because it will leave you a better person than what you were before. You will learn from it, you will grow from it, you will mature from it, you will ripen from it. And I would now like to end my talk and invite any questions that there may be. Thank you.
François, can you stop sharing the screen? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Nutan, for this beautiful presentation. Thank you for sharing your positive experience with Bach Flower Remedies during pregnancy. That was very, very interesting. I may say that I've been using the rescue remedy for a long time. My mom used to give me this remedy before my test and on many occasions. So I know that it's very, very helpful and powerful. So thank you very much for this presentation. Would you like to add anything?
Well, if anybody has any question, or what I would like to add is I also had it just now, recovering from my illness. I'm recovering from fever, and I use them too. And I want to thank everybody who's been wishing me a quick recovery on the chat. Thank you, everyone. And Payal, I saw your message. I think she's gone, but she mentioned how she read my book. And yeah, and I would think that if any time you are exposed to flower remedies, just go ahead without thinking. It's the safest thing you can have. It has no side effects. And it's yeah. Thank you, Payal, for your chat remark.
Thank you, Nutan ma'am. I'm in this profession because of that one book. I must, admit that many years back, somehow I got your book, and before that I didn't have any knowledge about that. Something by name childbirth education, exists. But let me tell you, from the very childhood, when I was a small kid, by the time I know that something can be done for the mother and baby, I have that thing in my mind. After I grew up, I want to do something for the mother and baby. Right. But at that point of time, I didn't have any idea that how I can do it. Slowly and gradually, somehow, with it happened. I came into the profession and doing all those things. Now I'm fully with mother and baby. And recently, we got a project through Rotary in Bangalore, Karnataka, to work with primary health workers and go to the remote villages of Karnataka and help the mother and the baby. And I'm so happy and delighted. I just, can't explain the amount of happiness I got when, I went there and, helped those people. And thanks to you, you were my, virtual guru all throughout these years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Payel. So we have lots of very positive comments saying thank you. It was very interesting and informative. Wonderful presentation, Nutan. Fanta said that she's using Rescue Remedy as well for herself and her kids.
Mm-hmm.
Here we have a question from Maria Miranda. Great presentation, Nutan. Rescue Remedy got my daughter through adolescence. Do Bach flowers work for swollen lymph nodes?
Yes, they should, because when you have something within your body that you dislike, generally the remedy is crabapple. And so crabapple, and other than that, it would help if one could talk of the emotions the person is going through. And one can customize like that. But broadly speaking, rescue remedy and crabapple without having. But of course, if I speak to her and we get a better idea of what she's going through, then we can customize it further.
Yes, thank you very much.
It's all, Dr. Bach said, it's all about your emotions. It's all about listening to your intuition and your instincts. It's something like, the previous talk by Dr. Pooja, who was an obstetrician, and she chose to become a doula. So she followed her heart. Her mind would have never told her to go from being an obstetrician to a doula. But it was an instinct. And Dr. Bach always says that when you follow your instinct is when you are led to your happiness. So I think the biggest message from Dr. Bach is just follow your heart, even though it may not seem correct in the material world.
Yes, true. Thank you very much. Yeah, Smita is asking, how can we learn the Bach remedies?
Well, you need to look around any course that's starting on Bach Flower Remedies anywhere. Maybe Google it or search for it. And if you're interested in it, just start reading the personality types. And, sometimes you almost have a picture in your mind of a particular kind of person. Something like the emojis that I showed with the personalities. So you get those emojis in your head, and it's sort of just imbibe the different kind of people. If you're a people person and you can have compassion and you can understand what the other person is going through, that becomes easier for you to choose the remedies, because you can have the compassion to understand what the person is going through. That's very, I think that would be the first most important thing, quality to have before you start to learn. And if you have that, then just go ahead and you enjoy it, just go ahead and learn. And it's, like I said, you can be so innovative with them. You can use your imagination. You can use, you can be innovative with them. And the good thing is that if you give a wrong remedy, nothing happens. They just work on a vibrational level. It's like you heard a bad piece of music and that's, forget it. Right? And when you hear a good piece of music, you tap to it, you dance to it, you release oxytocin, and it does so much for you. But otherwise, it's just some silly noise that bothered you. So they're so beautiful, they are so gentle, they are so, they don't contraindicate anything. And they work on a level where, you have the drops and you say, oh, I'm just having a few drops. And after a few days, you realize, oh, I'm behaving differently now. Normally, I would behave like this in this situation, but I'm not. or I'm getting clarity on people. For people who don't have clarity, they're very beautiful, and I would suggest it's a great thing to learn. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Shushmita is, yeah, she wrote, "Thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful session. Is there any remedy for fibroid?"
Fibroid would again be crabapple. Crabapple would be for diarrhea, would be for sinuses, would be for lymph nodes, would be for everything. But like I said, everything has to be done in, do whatever, like say for lymph nodes, generally you need to move a lot. When you're not moving enough, your lymph doesn't move. So in order to get the lymph moving, maybe you've got to move and have the crabapple. And fibroids is a lot of blood in one place and a lot of growth, or maybe lots of hormones. And so really, if you could give me some more emotional aspect to it, that would help to further recommend what else. But crabapple and rescue generally is for anything that you dislike within yourself.
Thank you. I have another question here.
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes.
Yes, so it's well known that all homeopathic are not equal according to the way they are prepared. Is there a sacred way to prepare Bach remedies?
Well, there are two methods of making the Bach Flower remedies. One is the sun method, and one is the boiling method. So some of the remedies Dr. Edward Bach made by placing the flowers in a bowl of water in the sun. And then he would take that water, and the water was always spring water and very clear water. He would add to it 50% brandy, and that was the medicine. And some remedies he made by the boiling method. He would bring the flowers to a boil for like 30 minutes at least. And then he would use that water along with the brandy again to preserve it so it doesn't spoil. And then you just need a few drops at a time. Generally, if you get the imported flower remedies, you take 2 drops of what is indicated and 4 drops of rescue. But in India, we get it further diluted when we buy it. So we generally use double the number of drops. So if you have the rescue remedy from England, you would use 4 drops of rescue. If you have the rescue remedy from India, you would use 8 drops of it. But generally, it's 4 and 2 or 8 and 4. 8 and 4 for the Indian drops, and 4 and 2 for the English drops.
Okay. Thank you for this precious information. We have another question for you about do you recommend the rescue remedy in pill form for sleep?
Yes, you could have it. It would be good. Yeah. So in India, we have a lot of the homeopaths who take the regular homeopathic pills and put the flower remedy in it instead of the homeopathic remedy. But I know abroad you get something like lozenges also, like pills. Yes, you can take them all. They all fine.
Okay, thank you. That was a question from Maria Miranda. Dr. Payel asked, any remedies for endometriosis or adenomyosis?
Crabapple again, but Payal, you have my number. You can call and we can customize further.
Yes, sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Yes, I will do that. Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, Shushmita said also, thank you, ma'am. She will contact you personally, Nutan, once you're fine. And so she wishes you speedy recovery. That we all do,
Thank you.
actually. We all wish you a speedy recovery.
Thank you.